Welcome back to Nicholas Comic Corner, Classic/Non-Classics. This is episode number 1584 and Doubleshot number 1478. I have two Marvel trades. The first one from a writer that a lot of people are like, really? He wrote this? Yeah, this is a book by Neil Gaiman. And when you think of Neil Gaiman, what do you think of? Sandman, Stardust, Across the Universe, possibly 1602. But this book, no. And he did this book with John Romita Jr. of all people. This is Eternals. Yep. Yeah, that's what it's called. Eternals. Eternals by Gaiman Romita Jr. Yep. This contains the entire 7-issue miniseries that pretty much is Volume 3 of Eternals. Now, unlike other comic books I was reading this period of time, this is, of course, when I was still reading comics, my early years, basically from 2004 to 20 period, I really love. This book, I do not remember reading this book at all when this book came out, when these issues came out. And you're thinking, really, Nick? You read practically everything else that came out this period of time? That's indeed true, I did. This book, I did not remember reading it at all. This issue came out came out in late 2006, wrapped up in 2007. Yes. Mostly put, the plot I'm going to describe here, it sounds very similar to JMS's one for Thor. Okay, the main character, Icarus, is trying to reawaken the Eternals. Now, the Eternals themselves have not been seen in comics at this point for many years. I'd say probably not since the 1980s. Let me look over here. Because one of the reasons why I decided to review this... Come on. Well, was mainly because of the fact the film was coming out next month. Yep, it is. Now, Neil Gaiman's run, well, like I said, started in the year of 2006. Yeah, not very long of a book. Yep, and like, what happened after this miniseries wrapped up? Well, they popped up here and there. They didn't do very much. Yes, that's the weird thing when it came to the Eternals. Okay. Now, prior to this book coming out, the last time officially that the Eternals made a physical appearance was back in 2000. They had a one-shot. But this is the first type of series they've had since 1986. So it's been a good 20 years since this book basically was published. Yeah. But the weird thing is, it seems as though, like, and a lot of people might think this is quite interesting for these characters, but it just seems as though that Marvel, like, unlike the Inhumans, which Marvel forced on people's throats from, like, 2014 to 2017, which a lot of people did not give a damn about the Eternals. Not the Eternals, the Inhumans. The Eternals surprisingly never received that same treatment. Nope. Like, they had this miniseries, a following miniseries, but after that, nothing. Seriously, nothing for the Eternals. I mean, the only reason why the Eternals got an ongoing series recently is because the movie's coming out. That's the only reason why. Now, Icarus is making members of all these famous Eternals. Cersei's in here, and here's something interesting, though. There's actually a couple of non-Eternal characters in this book. Who pops up here? Iron Man and Hank Pym is Yellowjacket's identity because it came out in 2006. So, of course, we have to have a background tie into Civil War 1, where you have Iron Man talking to Cersei, where the way it's written here is that Cersei's surprised the fact that Iron Man knows who she is, because here's the thing, Cersei, I mean, yeah, she does know with Cersei, but she's got amnesia. Yes, she has amnesia. She's not the only one. He also has another character named Mark, who apparently possibly is an Eternal, and Icarus, the main character of the series. Yeah, the guy who he talks to, who thinks he's Eternal, he thinks Icarus is insane. And I'm like, if he's insane, why don't you lock up in an insane asylum? Well, lucky enough that Iron Man knows who he is, so he at least is telling the truth about the Eternals. But the thing about the Eternals they are a group of characters that Marvel never gave a lot of love to a lot of the time. Yes, they are creations of the late Jack the King Kirby, and I do appreciate... Now, pretty much the best way to describe the Eternals, and even while now, the second time I reviewed the Eternals trade, last time was Eternal Cosmic Origins. The best way to describe the Eternals is that they're Marvel's version of New Gods. That's simply what they are. The New Gods. You can kind of say that Icarus is kind of like DC's Orion. Possibly, yes. That's the best way their counterpart, per se, but the thing is, the Celestials are similar to the old gods. The Celestials... Now, here's the weird thing about this book. This book had a debut of the Dreaming Celestial. And you're thinking, the Dreaming Celestial? That sounds familiar. There's a reason for that. Well, this book technically isn't the first appearance of this particular Celestial. Oh no, it really isn't. It became accurate in modern day thanks to this miniseries. Yes, seriously. Yeah, this miniseries practically brought back this particular character. He made his debut toward the end of the original book. Oh yeah, and here's the... I think it's the same right here. The Dreaming Celestial. Yeah, apparently, get this. He's like buried underground. He's basically in San Francisco in Golden Gate Park. That's pretty much where he is. And apparently, Eternals are trying to wake him up. And pretty much are just trying to wake up all these Eternals for something that's explored in the next miniseries. But here's the weird thing about the next line for Eternals. Excuse me. Neil Gaiman does not write it. Nope, he does not. No, he doesn't write it. And you're thinking, really? He doesn't write it? And yet, this practically set up this particular book? Yeah, it set it up alright. Yeah, the 7-issue miniseries, which, by the way, I love the covers for this book. Yeah, the Eternals Volume 9, which is what this book was setting up, Neil Gaiman didn't write it. It was written by somebody else. Who wrote it, you might ask? It was written by Charles Nuff and Daniel Kunoff. The artwork in the book was done by Daniel Kuna. This book, of course, John Major does the interior artwork, but the cover art for these issues is done by Rick Barry, which these covers are gorgeous. I mean, look at this. It fits the Eternals. Yes. This is one thing you could definitely praise about this book, is that the covers for all 7 issues are really, really good. Yep. And despite the whole thing... Oh yeah, by the way, the Eternals are asked to register because they got superpowers. And they're like, no, we're not going to do that. We're just going to protect the planet. And Iron Man doesn't force the issue. And you're thinking, really? Yeah, that's why Iron Man was written in 2006 because of Civil War 1. That everyone who has superpowers had to register. That doesn't matter if you're a superhero or not, you had to register. But because of how powerful the Eternals are, and the fact there's like over 100 of them and they can easily kill him, and the fact he knows a couple of them personally, he probably was like, okay, you can do what you want, just don't stand in our way, and we'll stand in your way. And Icarus is like, actually, it's Icarus, and I believe his name is Gerner. He's the leader of the Eternals. Icarus is more like the field leader of the Eternals. I think his name is Malachra. No, it's not her. The Eternals are led by... Let's see. Who's leader of the group? Yeah, the leader of the Eternals is a guy by the name. It's not Sprite. No, there's a guy named Sprite in this book, and he actually is not the leader of the group. No, I think his name was Zurus. Yes, the best way to describe this guy, he's kind of like the Eternals version of Zeus. Yep. Yeah, he made his first appearance in Eternals number 5. Well, that was when he was known as, well, Zurus. He actually was Jupiter in Red Raven Comics number 1. And he is a Jack Kirby character, so at least Jack Kirby basically reinvented him. Now, Sprite was like a little kid who appeared in the original book. He did die at one point, but he did come back. There's also a kid in this book named Joey Elliot. His mother, his beautiful mother, is Tina. Yes, his mother is, like, that's Tina right there. And you probably think, okay, Zakaris, who is he? Where is she? Where is he? He is the guy with the beard on the cover. Yep. Let's see. Cersei, surprisingly, is not on the cover. You could say this is possibly Cersei right here, this one right here, but I don't know. Icarus is obviously in the middle. Yeah, he's the most obvious one. But in the case, what this book is actually pretty good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. It's an excellent book. And pretty much you can kind of say this book is a somewhat obscure book by Neil Gaiman. Because Neil Gaiman is known for a heck of a lot of stuff besides this. And it's not a book he's known for doing. Like aside from this book, he also worked on, of course, the Miracle Man book. Obviously, he also did Alice Cooper, The Last Temptation. He did, well, of course, Marvel 1602. He did a couple issues of Guardians of the Galaxy because Angel's in the book. Yeah, but he hasn't done really all that much for Marvel. But that's the thing with Neil Gaiman. Of course, Neil Gaiman is also known for writing, of course, he wrote a couple of episodes of Doctor Who because he's a big Doctor Who fan. But when you think of him, people usually think of, like I said, Sandman. Excuse me, Sandman is the most obvious one that people think of. But he has written other stuff, but this is a book that, well, we think of his time at Marvel, he hasn't done a lot. No, seriously, his first book he did was back in 1993. And the last book he came out with them came out in 2019. Wow, that was a one-shot issue. But, excuse me. Well, in the case of the books themselves, the last time he published a book for them was back in 2016. Roughly about 5 years ago. That, well, was the reason for it. Yep. But yeah, in case you're curious though what he did afterwards, he did a 30th anniversary special for Dharmiya Jr., which came out not long after this. And after that, he did nothing for Marvel for 6 years. Until he did a few issues of Guardians of the Galaxy by Michael Bendis. Because they brought in the character Angela. Yep. That was simply the reason for it. Now, I love the Eternals. I definitely think they're a great group. I kind of think that these guys should got the push that the Humans did. But had to push the Inhumans because Marvel couldn't do anything with the X-Men because their stupid blood feud with frickin' Fox. And it's a good thing the blood feud is gone because Disney bought Fox 2 years ago. And that's actually about 3 or 4 years, and that's the reason we got Fantastic Four back now. Alright, next up it is Wolverine Volume 1 Kill Season. Yes, this contains the first 6 issues of Wolverine Volume 5. This one I do remember coming out. Yes, came out in 2012, and this here's a fun fact for you. Despite the fact Wolverine has had 7 number 1s, okay, this was the second time I had seen the book get restarted. The last time was back in 2010 when Jason Aaron took over the book. This book is done by Paul Cornell. By the way, the very next episode I'll discuss the following trade here. Yes. Now, the artwork in this book is done by Alan Davis, who is a very good artist, by the way. Now, in the case of his history with Wolverine, He has only drawn Wolverine whenever he pops up with the X-Men. That's the only experience the guy has had. And in the case of Paul Cornell, well, this is one of the very few non-Doctor Who books the guy has done. No, seriously. Like, I'm looking him up right now. Paul Cornell. Yes. The guy is known for Doctor Who books. Yes, seriously. Yeah, for comics related to him. Yes, he has done some non-Doctor Who stuff. This is one of those books. He was also the primary writer for Captain Britain and Martyr 13. An excellent book, by the way. Yeah, he also did books like Dark Reign, Young Avengers, Dark X-Men The Beginning, Black Widow, Dark A Deadly Origin. He did some issues of Action Comics. I believe he worked on the Lex Luthor feature. Yes. He worked on Soldier Zero, Night Square, a few issues of Batman and Robin, Stormwatch before... he was actually one of the writers of Stormwatch for the relaunch. He was original for Demon Knights. He did this book and the following book. And his last finished book he ever did was This Damn Band. That came out 7 years ago. And that's the non-Doctor Who stuff he's done. Excuse me. Now, in this book, excuse me, Wolverine is basically protecting some people from this weird gun that hypnotizes people to commit crimes. He ends up accidentally killing this boy's father right in front of him. And basically, cops come. Of course, Wolverine is completely naked because he got vaporized by the damn thing. And there's also this bullet in his shoulder. Yeah, they'll explain later until issue 7 what the heck this bullet even is, because it doesn't come out. You're oh, why is this healing? Yeah, that actually is not explained to issue 7 what the heck the bullet is. I will get to that. So he tells the cops, he's completely naked, "Hi, I'm Logan, aka codename Wolverine. I'm an Avenger. Get a paramedic in here for this boy right now before he goes into shock. The culprit's right over there, so you can calm down." Yes, he says this to a group of almost nearly trigger-happy police officers. Yes, so they gave him clothing, though before they get clothing, apparently the female detective's I like what I see. And I think from Wolverine's perspective, he's he's probably thinking, I want that woman in bed. Because she saw him naked. Which, by the way, never happens. He never sleeps with her. And that's typical Wolverine. He would sleep with a bunch of random women over the years. And that's the thing with Wolverine, because he's a ladies' man. Who would not I guess any lady could not resist a short Canadian who is also a freaking badass. Now, this was actually during a period of time where he was dating Storm. Yes, he dated Storm this period of time. Now, I should point out that prior to this, he was dating Melinda Gardner, a character who Jason Aaron created and basically appeared sporadically, but after the end of the previous run, issue 317, Covenant, she didn't do anything after that. She didn't appear in any of the Paul Cornell issues. Which, excuse me, you're thinking, really? Why doesn't she appear in Paul Cornell issues? I thought she was dating Wolverine. Well, this is something Jason Aaron did. He hooked her up. First he hooked up with the original character, and then Jason Aaron hooked him up with frickin' Storm. And the thing is, this happened right after the annulment of her marriage to frickin' Black Panther. Yes, seriously. So, this gun gets on S.H.I.E.L.D., everything goes crazy, and then, this book ends, very interestingly. This is, of course, not letting out the bullets moved, and he's what's going on? Why am I not healing? And he's telling his body, heal! Heal! Telling it to heal. And that's how the book ends. If you wonder what happened, Wolverine's healing factor has been lost. Yep, this begins an epic story arc that pretty much consumes the next couple years of Wolverine. This book is a good start to Paul Cornell's run. I give this book a 9.5 out of 10. It's a damn good book. And he also works with, of all people, Nick Fury Jr. Yep, works with him in here too. Because why not? He worked with his father a lot. Now, when I saw the covers for this, I was like, okay, that makes some sense. I mean, after all, Nick Fury Sr. made frequent appearances in the first ongoing volume of Wolverine. I think he made appearances a couple times in Volume 3. Volume 4, he never did. Not during Jason Aaron's, where he never made a physical appearance in that book. Most because Wolverine was fighting ninjas and demons. Never had an appearance by Nick Fury, which is kind of strange. Did Nick Fury pop up in any Wolverine book aside from, well, the ongoing series? There was a couple one-shots they did together, but in the case of Nick Fury Jr., this made total sense. And when I saw this, I'm like, yeah, that was a good idea. I gotta hand it to Paul Cornell for doing that. Because, after all, Wolverine's no friend of Nick Fury, so of course he would team up with his son. Oddly enough, there's no mention here of Nick Fury Sr. Nope. Now, if you don't know who Nick Fury Jr. is, like I said, he's the son of the original Nick Fury that Stan Lee and Jack Kirby created back in the 60s. At this point in time in comics, here's a very strange thing about this. Nick Fury Jr. at this point, he'll live around for 1 year in comics. I'm not kidding about that. 1 year. 1 year in comics before he popped up in Wolverine. Yep, and he becomes a recurring character in this book. This is actually one of a couple books he's a recurring character in. The other, of course, being Secret Avengers by Nick Spencer at this point in time, and later on by Alexis Knott. What is the other thing? Oh, yes. There's also in the book mentioning that Maria Hill is the acting director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Well, there is an explanation for that. You gotta read Nick Spencer's Secret Avengers to get basically an explanation for that. By the way, that book is excellent. And I am curious, though, why Nick Spencer left those 16 issues. I'm not sure why. Okay, so yeah, that's a particular view. Next view is going to be, well, Wolverine and a book from the Black Label imprint from DC. Okay, next video. Bye.